Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for our outdoor panel, Outdoor Utopia, The Great Escape. In a few moments, we look forward to diving into an intelligent and dynamic discussion with our guests. First, however, I would like to tell you about our moderator, Chris Gialanella, who's the group publisher for Modern Luxury. Chris was born in Livingston, New Jersey, and he started his successful career by interning for a local congressman in DC. In 2001, he found his passion in the publishing business while working for titles such as Angelino and Front Desk. Through his dedication and very hard work, Chris was promoted to take over the Riviera Orange County publication in 2008 and was given the opportunity to publish a sister magazine, Riviera San Diego. I love the show and tell. Chris is currently the group publisher for 8 brands in Southern California, and they are Angelino, LA Confidential, Riviera Orange County, Modern Luxury San Diego, Interiors California, Weddings California, Modern Luxury in Beverly Hills, and Modern Luxury in Palm Springs. Chris is very, very proud of his team and the very hard work they do in publishing these really exquisite magazines. And they also cover many fabulous events which will one day return. They also cover some of the most colorful people and places in Southern California. So I turn it over to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Christine, and your team. Thank you so much for having me on as a moderator for the Outdoor Utopia, The Great Escape. I am so excited to be a part of this because I really feel like now more than ever, outdoor living has taken on a whole new meaning. You know, obviously since the pandemic started, a lot of us, our homes are really what we're doing for schooling, what we're doing for working out, what we're doing for business. It really has become everything that we are right now, you know, so it's tough to get outside. So when we do go outside, we want to make sure that everything looks and feels like we're on vacation. That's kind of how I look at it. So I am just thrilled to be a part of this. Modern Luxury, we're celebrating our 25th year in Los Angeles, so I'm pretty excited. I've been here 23 years. I've been here 20 years of them all. So it's pretty exciting for us. And really what we do is we really cater to the luxury lifestyle people of Los Angeles, whether it's fashion, whether it's travel, dining, and obviously home design is a big part of what we do. We have our sister book Interiors, and you know, so that's part of our portfolio. So without further ado, I'm thrilled to really introduce you guys to some really amazing architects and designers who have joined us today. We've got Lynda Murray. Lynda, wave your hand. We've got Sandra Vlock, and we've got Paul McClean. So I'm really excited to be in the company of such talented people. So I'm gonna have Lynda. Lynda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a born and raised Angelino girl. I started my business I'm on my 25th year. We work here in Los Angeles and also all over. I'm on the East Coast and a couple of places out of the country. And we do high-end interiors, work a lot with Paul, which I'm really excited about. That pool behind me was designed by Paul. And, you know, I have a 8-person firm, and I think I have one of the best teams in LA, and I feel really proud to be able to work with guys like Paul and architects that are building the most, I think, innovative properties in and around California.
And if you guys have not been to the Fairmont in Santa Monica, they just had an amazing renovation, and Lynda was a big part of that. Lynda, tell us a little bit about what you did at the Fairmont Miramar.
Yeah, so I've been working with them for a few years now. It's been, I think, 5 years. There's over 300 rooms at that hotel, so we renovated all the rooms. Actually, we're on the second round of kind of freshening up because it's been, like I said, about 5 years we started, and we did all the guest rooms, suites, all the elevator lobbies, all the hallways, all the main areas of the hotel, and it's been the only hotel I've ever worked on. I was kind of looking for a boutique hotel to do, and it turns out that I ended up getting hired by them, thankfully, and so it's been a really amazing project. And I found out that they have like 900,000 rooms have been turned over. I mean, the hotel is booked 365 right now. Unfortunately, they're in a COVID situation like the rest of us, but that hotel gets a lot of use, and it's kind of exciting to see that many people using our rooms.
And I think hospitality is going to take on a whole new whole new term too with people staycationing. So we'll, all of us Angelinos in Orange County and San Diego will all be able to enjoy the local hotels here. So
For sure.
for that. Sandra Vlock, welcome.
Thank you.
You're an East Coast girl like me. Oh, well, I'm a guy, but you're a girl. You're an East Coast person like me.
Pointing that out.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I seem to have one foot in California, but I've had a long career as an architect with my own firm based in Connecticut, but with the opportunity to work all over the country, doing private residences, a lot of university projects, museums, and galleries. At a very young age, I was much influenced by Charles Moore, who played a big role in my upbringing as a personal friend and someone that I really had a very strong impression about what architecture was about, which was collaborative and site-specific. And I mention that because I had the privilege of working at Sea Ranch, not on Sea Ranch, but working with Charles Moore at his residence in Sea Ranch. And that really influenced the sort of work and interests that I've had throughout my career. Most recently, I've been working as a sculptor, doing, I would say, site and context and culturally specific installations, one of which is behind me that sort of launched this crazy idea, a fireball, which is a repurposed mooring buoy. In this case, it was collaborative because I needed help with fabrication, and imaginative in that I was able to use my, I guess, instincts as an artist in sketching and in imagery to relate what I'm doing to where it is. And most recently, I've been involved yet again as an architect and an artist, working just down the avenue from Coachella and the Empire Polo Fields, designing a former California ranch, an abandoned complex of buildings, into a retreat and event space. And in that case, I'm able now as my own client, which is a privilege, to integrate art within that landscape. And so that's something that I'm really excited about.
Great. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank
Paul
you.
McClean, all the way from Ireland. Tell us how you got your start. Give us the rundown on you, Paul.
Well, I thank you, Chris. I'm an architect, obviously. Always wanted to be an architect since I was a very little boy, and was always attracted to residential design rather than other forms of architecture. I grew up in Ireland, went to college in Ireland, and discovered the work of some of the mid-century modern masters here in Los Angeles, and so I was attracted to come here. I've been here about 25 years now, and we've had our firm, McClean Design, for 20 years. We basically just do residential architecture, sometimes some boutique projects, work a lot with Lynda, which is very exciting. We have great collaboration between our two teams. We're like a 10-man office, and we do projects mainly in Southern California, but around the country, and now more recently around the globe as well.
Welcome aboard, Paul. We're thrilled to have you. So I will start with you, Sandra, with the first question we have, which is, how can outdoor space safely foster community or a sense of togetherness? Discuss the role of design and architecture in creating the intimate setting.
Wow. I think that is where everybody would like to be. The intimate setting usually involves a destination of some sort, whether it's a group of chairs, Adirondack chairs, or a fire pit, something that kind of draws people together. And when I mentioned my fireball, that was a thing that started out just as an idea, and then I realized that the idea was beyond just being a thing. It invited conversation. That's important. That's really powerful, whether it's water or fire or something that is so elemental. But the intimate space is what I think we all look for, whether it's in hospitality, as an experience, or in our own backyard. And I really see the importance of bringing an artistic eye to that, whether it's through natural materials or through things which are architectural elements or artistic elements.
Can you show us the sculpture behind you if you scoot
I
up a
can
little bit?
move my head.
Just so you can get a good look at it.
This is a background. This piece is, the imagery is of the harvest. The setting is a vineyard in Connecticut, as a matter of fact. The piece is now at Auberge du Soleil in Napa. In this piece, it's my own sort of take of that environment, and in all of its details, not just the rolling hills, but the small creatures that inhabit that space. And so it really is kind of a discovery element.
Right. It's absolutely breathtaking. You did a great job on that piece. Lovely. Lynda, what kind of features make an outdoor space desirable for relaxation and reflection?
Wow. I mean, you know, I kind of always say, being born and raised in LA, the weather here is so good pretty much all year long. I like to take my interiors outside and try to make it as seamless as possible. So the things that you have inside, I think, can be brought outside. You know, obviously, like she mentioned, fire pits, but we have full like kitchens outside now. There's people that have not just pizza ovens, but like all the greatest, latest appliances that you can do in your main kitchen can be all outside. So there could be a full chef's kitchen with a sort of overhang and have, you know, like the Benihana kind of grill. And so you can have full kitchens, and we put really big dining tables and seating areas, and all the fabrics nowadays are anything that you can find for inside, you can have outside. There's amazing outdoor fabrics now that you would never know they were outdoor if I didn't tell you. So you can have comfortable furniture on your patio that could get rained on and withstand weather. So for me, I like to put a living room outside. I love beautiful lighting for outside. So it's kind of the sky's the limit, really, to be honest with you.
Lynda, what are some of your go-to places that you go to purchase furniture for your clients, and where do you shop?
I shop all over the world, but for patio furniture, there's a few go-tos. There's Janice AC that has an amazing collection. Didon has an amazing collection. David Sutherland has an amazing collection. Summit, those are all in the Pacific Design Center, actually. They have amazing umbrellas. There's a company called Tucci, which does these very industrial umbrellas that they're electric, they have heaters built in, they have lighting built in, so you press a button and they open, and heat and light. And so like I said, being in California, Los Angeles specifically, like they've made it very, very easy for designers to make the exterior look as good as the interior, and just be available to be outside in the elements and stuff. So like I said, with the fabrics too, which makes a huge difference. Back in the day, everyone knows Sunbrella. The fabric tends to be a little coarse. It's very durable and weatherproof, but not so cozy to sit on. And that used to be the only game in town. Now fabrics, there's velour, chenille, velvet, it's crazy. So you can really like make your patio furniture super comfortable now. So it's really nice.
That's great. Paul, when designing an outdoor space, is it equally important to prioritize its aesthetic as well as its functionality? How do you find a balance between the two?
I think it's a great question. I think it is equally important. We don't really see exterior spaces as separate from the structures we design, more like an extension. I think that's something Lynda hit on a little bit before, that we like to see our projects where we can move seamlessly from indoors to outdoors, and we're very fortunate to be able to design things here in this climate where that's possible year-round. So when we're thinking about outdoor space, we're often thinking about editing space to create those moments, which is where the aesthetics comes into it. In fact, if you look at the image behind me here, this is a project that Lynda and I worked on together. So there's a busy road right behind this wall that you see, but the wall is created with this green wall at one end and then a 200-foot long water feature, which drowns out the noise. So as you come up into this space off the street, you have a completely different feeling as you approach the entry of the house. So we spend a lot of time working with what we have on site and trying to create these spaces so that not only are they a continuation of the interior, but they also have their own aesthetic feeling of themselves.
Paul, what if you have, like in my situation, I have a balcony here, more urban living. what factors does that play, and how does it differ? What types of design would you create in a space like this?
I think in a space like this, the most important thing you have is, and I can see you've got a great view behind you there, Chris. So you want to maximize, yeah, there you go, great view of the harbor and boats. A little bit more cloudy there than where we are today. I think you make the most of trying, if we were trying to design that space, we'd be trying to connect as much of the interiors to that space as possible, access as much of that light as possible. You know, obviously if we could, we try and get rid of your guardrail top there, make it more transparent. Sorry.
Sorry.
From a design perspective. And I love the trees that you can see. So those are like natural things. You know, we'd want to try and edit out any road noise by increasing the size and the thickness of the glass. We try and maximize the appearance of the trees.
I'm so torn because I feel like going through the past 7 months being home pretty much 90% of my time, I've enjoyed looking at a view. I don't have a big backyard, but it actually hasn't been that bad. It's been great to visually see nature every single day rather than being in sort of a confined space that may have a pool or anything like that. So it's interesting how your mind reflects on your environment.
Yeah, I really do think so. And that's why it's so important to try and connect to nature and to try and open up the interior of the house as much as possible. Because you don't really need a giant balcony in urban living. If you can open a wall of glass, your living room becomes your balcony. So just small design changes like that, if you can pocket away the doors into a wall, makes a tremendous difference in how it feels versus that barrier between the two spaces of walking through a swing door and maybe looking out a window. So I think those are things that we can look at even in more restricted spaces.
I hear you. Okay, Sandra, next question is for you. Discuss the importance of selecting materials and surfaces, especially as it pertains to weather. What type of material is suitable for cold weather versus warm weather? And is the type of design always impacted by the region's weather conditions?
Well, in certain environments, in coastal environments, stainless steel is preferred material for the sort of work that I'm doing because it doesn't rust, unless you want it to rust, and then a natural weathering is preferred. I think that it's not so much cold or warm that's at issue here, unless we're talking about something like using wood or something porous. For me, it's the functionality includes bringing things from the indoors to the outdoors as well. So that seamlessness of having, whether it's a screen partition, which lives equally as nice inside as it might outside. So powder coating material is another route to take, so that there's more design flexibility in terms of color and finish. Other than that, for the sort of work that I'm doing, I think those are really the main concerns, that and the durability under high heat. So that's just something to consider as well. One thing that if I can segue a little bit into what you were just talking about, there's opportunity also in this to personalize the space, no matter how small it is, and to find things that can be very much about your own story or where you are. And so some of the things that I look towards just as opportunities that may be untapped opportunities might be shade structures, might be even the lowly patio heater, which is kind of an everyday ubiquitous object that has absolutely no aesthetic value whatsoever. And someone mentioned a pizza oven. Well, that's an opportunity for some artistic intervention as well, in terms of a screen that reflects the either something very personal or where you are. In each of these cases, back to your question to me, the materials really do depend on the environment that you place them in, especially in the out of doors. Desert environment, as well as a coastal environment. So stainless steel, mild steel, powder coating, those are even high heat paint are some of the things that I look towards to give a little more versatility and to be more durable over time.
Is it more exciting working on the East Coast or the West Coast, would you say, as far as
If my dad is listening right now, I would say the East Coast. But from where I sit, there's just that whole lifestyle that is so connected to nature, so connected to the pleasures of outdoor living. Is so attractive to me personally that's really why I'm here. I find that what I'm doing has more potential to and more collaborative opportunity than what I've experienced on the East Coast. And I could be entirely wrong, but that's my impression so far.
Lynda, what's your preference, East Coast or West Coast when it comes to interior design?
I mean, I'm a Cali girl, so I'm going to always say West Side all the way. But I happen to love New York City. I work a lot in Florida, in Miami and stuff. So I'm an equal opportunity designer, but I prefer LA just because of, like she said, the weather. You can't beat it. Like in New York, I just did an installation remotely for the first time ever in my career. I was not able to go to do this installation, but in New York. But in New York, if it's pouring down torrential rain or snowing, you're doing the installation. In LA, if it rains, if it even drizzles, it's called off. You know, like all bets are off. You're not doing any installation if it's a drizzle outside. And in New York, rain, sleet, snow, doesn't matter. So it's definitely a harder place to work, New York City, and the elevators, and there's a lot of to me complications working on the East Coast just due to the weather and everything's vertical and stuff. LA is just a much easier place to be and work. But I love New York City, don't get me wrong. I've worked there since I started my career. I've been on both coasts the whole time. And I love New York, but it's a very hard place to work.
Also, when it's, you know, I think it's 97 degrees this week in New York City. Who wants to be outside?
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, when I first started my career, I was like, really wanted to, you know, cut my teeth in New York, because I feel like if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And it's kind of true. It's brutal, tough environment to work in, but it's great at the same time. The places there are amazing, and the views and stuff, just two totally different animals.
Lynda, while I have you, I wanted to talk to you about artwork, including artwork outside, such as garden sculptures for an outdoor space. How might the addition of artwork make an outdoor space unique? Is art in an outdoor space part of the design process, or added in as a second thought?
It's definitely part of the process for sure. And I think I'm a huge proponent for artwork, and especially sculptures. I love sculptures. And I think, you know, when the client can actually afford to add a sculpture to their exterior space, it kind of speaks to who they are as people, and what kind of, you know, energetically, what kind of vibe that, you know, because art is so subjective. It could ruin a space or it could enhance a space. So if they have good taste and the architecture is amazing, I think it enhances it. I think it's kind of like the icing on the cake to add art. I think it's really important. Not everybody does it. It's a frivolous thing, but if you can add a sculpture, even one sculpture centrally located that kind of just adds to the amazing architecture, I think is most of Paul's houses. There you'll find a sculpture somewhere on the property, and I think it's amazing. I always love it, and I think people gravitate towards that.
I see. Have you seen, Lynda, a slowdown in design right now with the coronavirus pandemic? I know the PDC is closed. So what do you do when some of your great places that you shop, the salons, are closed? What do you do?
Yeah, it's the first time ever in my career where I've seen this. Yeah, we're not allowed into the design center right now at all. At first, when it first went down, they were like by appointment only, one person at a time. It was really restrictive, and now it's completely shut down. We do things remotely, like all of my vendors, I'm still working. You know, we've not stopped working. I just placed some huge orders this week. So we're able to still actually order things, but I'm having to have fabrics sent to us. I'm having to have things, it's all being done remotely on, you know, with the computer. I'm able to pull it off, but yeah, of course there's been a major slowdown. It's not like it was. I've had a couple jobs go on hold until next year. All the construction stuff that we've been doing, especially Paul and I, that's all still continuing, and it hasn't stopped. But as far as like shopping for furniture, I can't physically go do it. and the clients can't go. So it's been tough.
I mean, it's interesting. There was a report done that real estate is actually up from the month of June over May. So I think many people are saying, I either want to get out of where I am because I can't look at this place anymore, or I'm looking for a second home because I can't travel too much.
Yeah.
Right. So Paul, what are you seeing as far as your business impacted by COVID?
It definitely hit the pause button. Luckily, we've been very busy for a long time, so we still have plenty to do. I think especially the first half of the year, people were probably under the impression, I think we all were, that sometime by summer this would all kind of calm down and we'd be getting back to normal. So it's pretty easy to say, let's not address this right now. Let's just leave it till later. But in the last few weeks, we've had a lot more interest in moving forward with projects, and I think it's because we're seeing this is not such a short-term thing, and that it's going to go on for quite some time, and there's not much point in waiting. It's hard though, because normally we start our processes with lots of in-person meetings, and we also go visit projects, people's homes that we've done before, meet with people like Lynda. And, you know, it's very hard to get people to commit to that right now. People are still cautious and nervous. And for me, especially, one of the hardest parts is the lack of in-person meetings. You know, this is all fine and dandy, and it's great for what we're doing right now, but we have a large project, for example, in Dubai right now, and it's just not possible to present that with a video link. It just will have to be an in-person meeting somehow. We're just trying to figure out the logistics of how we get on planes and go to Dubai, because there's really no other option. It's such a large project that, you know, you just can't get through it and maintain people's interest. So I think that's been the biggest part. Our business, our end of the business, what we do, the people on this panel, is very personal. It's not like corporate architecture. You know, we're not doing high rises where we present to a bank committee or investment committee. So it's all about that personal interaction with people and kind of holding their hands and helping them make decisions. And doing that remotely is really difficult.
Do you see like a change in design because of social distancing? Or, you know, you think there's going to be different types of things that consumers are going to want in their backyards, like, I don't know, separating chairs, separate, you know, how do you think it's going to hold up on the design?
I don't think that's going to be a problem long term. I think at a certain point, this will be past tense, and, you know, we're still, you know, primates at heart. We all like to hang on to each other, and we'll all go back to doing that as soon as we possibly can. But I do think that there will be, you know, more subconscious changes to design, and it's really a little bit too early to see, but I wouldn't be surprised when we look back in 5 or 6 years and say, wow, you know, the design aesthetic that we're looking at today in 5 years is very different from what they were doing back in 2019, 2020. I think, you know, there's definitely such a big part of this process for everybody has been, you know, hygiene, sanitation, and so on. It's hard to imagine that not impacting design. It's like, the last few years, as Lynda and I know, we've been doing a lot of, you know, unfilled travertine stone on buildings. And I can see a situation like 5 years, people are like, what were they thinking? You know, think of the dirt, that travertine. It's just a different mindset will set in. We'll probably all be doing very blonde Scandinavian white houses, perhaps, you know, with lots of greenery. But in all seriousness, I think the biggest change, I think that is probably hitting everybody, is the importance of outdoor space. And that we're all, I think, lucky, all 4 of us here, that we have outdoor space, but so many people don't. And I think that's going to be more pervasive in planning. And as an example of that, we are just starting a project, which is some affordable housing in South Central LA. And, you know, one of the big points is like, how are we going to get people outdoor space? You know, because right now they're cooped up, and, you know, going forward, we want to try and address that and make that better. Obviously, for our client group, it's not usually a problem. We're fortunate to be designing on beautiful lots with views and gardens and so on. But I think when we think about planning in general, it's going to be a huge issue going forward.
It's interesting. I was down in Newport and I stopped in at one of my favorite restaurants, Market's A Restaurant on PCH. And they built a beautiful tent in the back of their restaurant because they don't have any outdoor dining. So it was really interesting to see how these restaurants are coping during the pandemic. And, you know, it looked okay. I mean, I wasn't blown away by the design, but that might be an interesting thing for you to take a look at, like Lynda or Sandra, you know, Paul, in your career, kind of looking at something interesting where maybe it's a temporary type of situation. Sandra, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I think that's really a great idea. I'm going to steal it from you. You know, I think that what I've been trying to wrestle with as I've entered into the art world is how to place function with fine art and the convergence of those two things. It's difficult if you're trying to work within a gallery setting and somebody doesn't really know what kind of category to put you into. But I think what we're talking about here is how to elevate our living environments. And that just doesn't stop at the back door. You know, and certainly in the environment of California, where it is all about the outdoors. One thing I wanted to say is that, you know, in Japanese garden design, one of the basic principles is the borrowed landscape, because there wasn't a lot of space. And that is something to work with. It's something to treasure, really, that the view that you have, despite the railing, which you can't change because everybody else has the same railing, I can see.
Not appreciate it.
Yeah, but it's still something to capitalize on, to leverage somehow, just no matter what the environment is, and also to personalize. I think that people are, whether they're renovating their own houses and spending more time in them, the desire to have something which is unique and personal, and that's most likely why Paul and Lynda are so involved in residential architecture. It is a lot of interaction. I've done it all. And you spend more time designing a house than you would a university building, I can tell you.
Yeah, true, true. You know, Chris, if I could add to your point there, I mean, just as an example here, we're in Orange, Old Town Orange, in the middle of Orange County, and the streets at the Circle, it's called a Circle, but it's a plaza, they've all been closed down, and they've spread the restaurants across the paving, so there are no cars anymore, and there's just lots of umbrellas and lots of people hanging out, and kids on bikes and skateboards, and it's like, can we just keep this, please? I mean, this would be a benefit of this stage, you know, and then maybe if this goes on long enough, we may end up keeping it, which would be fantastic. So maybe some positive things will come out of this as well.
I agree. You know, it's interesting. We actually had an event over the weekend in the Hamptons. The chain smokers were on our covers of our magazines, and we had a 30-person dinner party. I wasn't there, but we had a 30 dinner party outside. Social distancing, everyone took their temperature. The fire marshal was making sure that everyone was kind of doing their part. And then the chain smokers did a drive-in concert. Everyone kind of remained around their car. Everyone had a spot that they had to stay in. So it was kind of interesting how, you know, we created this environment and we're able to capture a live concert where many people thought those days are over. So I think if we're all thinking out of the box more, we do things like this. You know?
Yeah, a client of Lynda and mine, Alex, who's a great innovator in the music industry, calls this an accelerator moment, you know, where these ideas that were just starting to be considered and explored, they get pushed faster. And that's what will be interesting to see what comes out of this in that perspective.
Yeah, I have to say that in our conversation about a week ago when we were preparing for this panel, I sent around an article that was in the Washington Post, I believe, but it was really saying the same thing, is that if we don't look at this as being an opportunity to push this forward on every level, then we really have missed something. It's not just redesigning the mudroom anymore.
No,
it's something more profound.
No, for sure. Lynda, now, have you designed any events? Have you done anything like that before, events or receptions or anything like that?
I haven't.
I'm giving you new ideas?
Yeah. I've done several airplanes. I do commercial things. You know, I've done some really amazing commercial projects, but I've never actually done, I'm not like it's actually the furthest thing from my skills set whatsoever. I keep the event planning to the event planners. It's such a different animal than what we do.
With commercial, obviously, you know, a lot of businesses are working from home and maybe rethinking the idea of the office. How is that going to affect your business, Lynda?
I'm actually talking to someone right now who is a huge fan of Paul McClean in Dallas. He's going to build an office building. He's an attorney.
We'll help him.
Pardon?
We'll help him.
He does not want to work remotely. We had the whole conversation because of what's going on right now. And he's adamant about actually working in an office and having interaction with his employees and the other attorneys in the building. And, you know, having a communal kitchen. And so he definitely is planning to go forward how things have been. Of course, you know, they'll make accommodations to the spaces now, you know, and be conscientious about not encroaching in people's spaces. But there are still a lot of people that prefer to work in an office or at their, you know, how things were in the past, you know, coming into work and being, you know, camaraderie of being in an office and your employees and your coworkers and stuff. I think people really still love that. I personally also really love that. Like Paul said, what we do is very tactile, and, you know, it's really hard to show a client, you know, a textured stone from a photo, the photos don't even ever look like what the material looks like. I need to show my clients and let them touch and feel everything, you know, from the fabrics. I can't tell them it's soft. They need to feel it. So I don't know, in my office, we have a conference room and we put all our materials together and we spread things out. Like, it's just impossible to do that remotely. It just really is. So there are going to be certain employees that can't work from home. I mean, I just think that there are some people that will be able to do it seamlessly without a problem. And then there's jobs like Paul and I that we actually need interaction with our clients, and we need to go to the job sites and we need to bring materials. I always tell my girls, we're like the Avon ladies. We have bags and boxes full of materials that we bring to the job site, and it's always, the guys are always running, like, helping us carry everything, because we literally load our cars up and pack it with materials. Like, you cannot do that remotely. So, and I don't see that ever changing.
And has your office been open, or is it sort of open?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean, I shut down for 1 month. You know, when the whole thing went down, like, they were like, you need to be out of your offices by midnight and stuff. So we all grabbed our computers. I had my IT guy set everybody up to work remotely. I never actually shut down, but we worked remotely. And then second week of June, I brought everybody back, and we're social distance. I have an office set up that it works, and we stagger people and whatnot. So not everybody's here every day.
How about you, Paul? What's going on? I know you've got a busy office at times as well. How are you coping with COVID?
We did the same. We were out of the office, I think, for 2 months before we came back, and we've got pretty decent social distancing in our office. We have enough space, but I did feel that things we do so much of our work by collaborating with each other and by talking and by just moving backwards and forwards with ideas, that it became almost impossible to do it. We were doing like 3 of these kind of Zoom meetings a day, but stuff just kept falling behind and got forgotten and so on. And it really shows you that it's not going to work for us long term like this. I think for many people, what will probably come out of this is more flexibility, hopefully, for people who we've all discovered that people can work from home. Most people probably don't want to work from home long term, but at least we know, I think it's going to help a lot of people in terms of employers being more willing to allow people to work from home long term and to manage their lives better. So that's another potential positive that could come out of this experience, that, you know, managing childcare, managing household chores and so on, just being in charge of your own time frame, but just being there, maybe more of a focus on results rather than simply putting a clock in. I've always felt, coming to America, that people tend to work very long hours here and they're afraid to take vacations. While back home, we tend to kind of look at work as like, what do you achieve? Can you do it quicker? Then you're done, and then out you go, right? You know, here it's like, oh, I put 10 hours in today. Oh, I'm going to work Saturday morning. I'm like, why? Why are you working Saturday morning? Why don't you do something else?
How are things in Dublin?
They're good, actually. In Dublin, they're good. In Ireland, you know, benefits of being a small island obviously helps. Though we do have an international border with Britain, which hasn't done such a good job. But they have very, very low cases. They were stricter than we were here, and they had people over 70 were not allowed to leave their homes for more than 2 months at all. And but it did work. And they have basically, I was talking to my mother yesterday, there's been no new deaths this week in Ireland at all. That's in a country of 4 million people. So, I mean, they've been more, but I think also because it's a smaller country and they have more faith in government and, you know, more trust, it's easier in smaller groups, perhaps, you know, to make things work.
Great. Well, we kind of lost touch of the topic. I'll bring it back to Sandra. Are architects and designers placing an emphasis on the design of outdoor spaces, given its significant utilization during this time?
Oh yeah, I think that just like having an open studio and the opportunity to kind of gather and it's very important to everybody right now, clearly. And so whether or not it's a big shift towards the outdoors, I don't know, but I think that there's a lot more attention being paid to the value of not just outdoor space, but the right places, the safe places to have a sense of community. And as you were just talking, I was feeling a sense of sadness, really, that the whole wonder of serendipity, the value of serendipity, whether it's on a university campus or just in a neighborhood, of who you meet and who you talk to, the whole experience of having an open studio, as I'm sure Paul and Lynda both have. I'd hate to see what the fallout from all of this is, an over curation of what we experience, both as professionals and who we meet and talk to, and just in our private lives. But I think that the value of free space, outdoor space, where we feel comfortable, safe, and we can meet and gather is of utmost importance now, and that will continue.
I worry about the younger generation because we've all experienced great socialization with people throughout our lives. You know, my son is 14. Yeah. So, you know, he still has experienced personal connection, but I couldn't imagine kids who are 3-4 years old, how they're going to socialize moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see.
Well, hopefully they'll have all forgotten about it, you know, by the time they're 6. And it's a distant memory.
Did you guys see on the news, not to bring this up again, but that one woman who lives in the nursing home who survived the Spanish flu and COVID? Have you guys seen her? Really amazing.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
She should buy a lottery ticket.
She really should.
Buy a lottery ticket. And then the final question for you, Paul. How do you embellish outdoor space without hindering its natural beauty?
That's a great question. I mean, we don't see outdoor space particularly different than we see indoor space. So I think that's the first place to start. I mean, for me, especially working in this climate, it starts with the outdoors. We're always focused on what are these spaces for, how are we going to use them? And it's very important to think of them, like Lynda mentioned earlier, about how they're dressed, because if you just have this end, like you often see these large patios when buildings step back and there's just nothing on them and it's not inviting. And there's a question down below about, like, it's all very well talking about Southern California, what do you do if you're in Houston and it's 97 and 100% humidity? I think that space you create outdoors, you have to set it up and frame it in such a way that it's attractive, even if it's just to look at, because the climate is not appropriate at that time of year. So similar to the project we're currently working on in Dubai. So we use a lot of water features to bring, you know, well, because we think water brings balance to everything. We also use them to help us spatially edit so that we stop people from walking in certain areas. We try and create exterior rooms. And I think, like Sandra mentioned about the borrowed landscape, that's been something that's been very inspiring to me my whole life in terms of Japanese architecture, that you can create a foreground in the presence of the space and then bring the background further in by careful placement of elements, you know, using hedging or outdoor components to frame spaces and frame views so that they're part of a language versus just seeing outdoor space as just leftover space.
Great. Lynda, do you have anything to add?
I mean, while he was talking, like behind me is this amazing pool and bridge that Paul designed. And I'm like thinking, he's describing what's behind me. Yeah, I mean, I agree with every word he said. It's just, you know, you don't want to take away from the amazing view that you see behind me, which is Century City onto the ocean. But your eyes are so drawn to that beautiful water. You know, he does do a lot of water. We have olive trees. This patio that that's in my background is large. It's really, really large. There's like 2 living spaces. There's a huge outdoor barbecue fire pit area. But it doesn't feel like, pardon?
Where is that property?
Beverly Hills.
Oh, you're in Beverly Hills looking, okay.
Yeah.
Century City.
Century City is beyond, and it's like a dusk kind of photo. The ocean is beyond that, so it's directly facing the ocean, but up in the hills of Beverly Hills. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he said it perfectly. Like there's definitely a way to make the exterior feel just like the interior, with all the fabrics and things like that, the furniture that's not crazy busy to take away from the amazing view. It's kind of framed perfectly.
Right.
Yeah.
So Christine is back.
I'm back.
That means time's up.
From the troops, audience.
Yes, we have questions that came in. So what we did was we chose one question per panelist. So I'll start with Paul. So Paul, this is what somebody just wrote in. Your outdoor landscapes are so beautiful, so expansive. Do you always use water as a key component of your work? Have you ever done a house without water as kind of the main player?
Maybe it was growing up in a cold and damp place and moving to a desert. I don't know what it is. I don't think we've ever done a project without a water feature of some kind. In fact, most of them have several, but they have different functions. We use water often at an entry to change your perception as you approach a project. So we maybe make people walk across water. True stepping stones, changes your pace, and then that makes you feel a real sense of arrival. We use water for editing to stop people walking further onto a property, maybe seeing that below them is another property you don't want to see, like an old roof or a street with cars and stuff. We use water to screen noise. It's one of the most effective ways to screen noise, street noise, for example. Picture behind me, that water wall does a great job of taking out the cars. And we use water for passive cooling. So, you know, having breezes flow over water elements and then bring that moisture into space as they circulate. So it'd be hard for me to do a project without a water feature, because I can think of plenty of things to do with it.
And serenity too, I think, is a key.
Of course, yeah. But it's all life. There's no life without water. So it's the basis of everything.
So Lynda, this one's for you. This came in. So how closely do you and Paul collaborate on projects when you're designing interiors and also designing for the exteriors? Is that kind of a hand-in-hand thing, or does Paul take the lead on that?
I mean, obviously Paul is the architect. He creates the building, and we work I don't do anything without passing it by Paul. He knows exactly. Our offices are, I have all girls, he has all guys, and we talk all day, every day, and we're passing drawings back and forth regularly. Like, it's extremely collaborative. And again, like, I would never take a piece of his architecture and ruin it, you know, like I hope, Paul, that I would never.
No, you would never ruin it. You only come up with good ideas, you know?
But yeah, right? I have so much respect for. I actually met Paul on a panel many years ago. We spoke.
Right.
See how this networking happened?
Yeah. And I wanted to work with him really badly, and I think his architecture speaks for itself. He's world class, and I've been so honored and privileged to be able to work on these homes. It's just been like, I pinch myself, and I love it. And so yeah, we collaborate very heavily, and I pass everything by him. I'll come up with an idea and pass it to him before I show the client, for sure, just to make sure.
She's been far too modest. I mean, yes, you know. So all we need to do is go, yes, that looks great. That's all.
Yeah.
So this one came in for Sandra. Sandra, you ready?
Yep.
This is a big one. Okay, how in the world do you collect the repurposed mooring buoys? Are they extracted from the sea? How do you get them out of the sea? How long does it take to sculpt them into these artistic fireballs? And where can we find them?
I like the last part of your question, but this is so fascinating. Actually, the first 2 that I purchased, I was on my way to visit one kid at camp, and I had limited cell service, and I was on eBay. And lo and behold, I found these 2 mooring buoys in Nova Scotia. And then when I realized that, hey, I could actually do more of these, it was a rabbit hole of investigation, because these are now vintage. They're not useful anymore. And so that it really is I guess the flotsam and the jetsam of the marine landscape. They've been used for all sorts of things, including oil storage during the oil embargo. So I am not going to share my privileged information of months worth of investigation for where I'm finding these things, but you're welcome to contact me, and I'm happy to make you a fireball or whatever it is that interests you. But they
Excellent.
do have a life of their own, and that is what is so intriguing about the whole thing, is to repurpose something that has its own story. And I think the word that we haven't used here, or the notion, is a narrative, whether it's a personal story or just a story of place. And that really is design. So I find that this was my I would say a door that opened for me to look into kind of a whole nother world of architecture and design. It happened to be a repurposed.
All right, well, great. Thank you. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. I'm going to turn this back to Chris. Chris, you've done such a beautiful job moderating. I'm going to let you do the
Nobody has any
closing.
questions for me? God.
Oh my God, we don't have one for you directly. What are we going to say?
Well, I know, Paul, I think we did something on you in Riviera a couple of years ago. I think we did a 2-page piece. And I think, Lynda, you were in Angelino, our Chris Hemsworth issue.
Yeah.
And Sandra, we got to do something with you. So I think I owe you one.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in.
That's great.
I'm thrilled to really be around such talented people, and I'm always inspired by so many great people. And that's what I love about Southern California, is meeting such interesting, fascinating people. And honestly, I've said this before, during this pandemic, I think I've connected with way more people now than I ever have out in the real world, out on day to day, because I feel like you have time to actually sit, have time to think. I think it's kind of been one of the benefits of having this time really, amongst ourselves, is that we're able to do that. So thank you. And Christine, you are the best. And I really appreciate all your support.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
For us in the media world. Hasn't been easy for us, but hey, we're getting by, and we're
Are
providing
we ever?
products for everybody between print, digital, and events are going to be coming back soon. I don't know when. Maybe we'll do a drive-in concert. Paul and Lynda and Sandra, you guys could design it for us.
Oh, we'll be there. We'll be there, 100%.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you for a really incredible job today. And thank you everybody for being here
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
outdoors.
Great job. Thanks, guys.
Go.
Bye.
Utopia.
Thank you. Bye.